Somewhere in Croatia, on a freezing winter night, a tiny kitten crawled into a car engine looking for warmth. What happened next would break your heart, and then, slowly, put it back together again. This is the story of little Carrot. Of course, they named her after a vegetable. Look at that orange. On January 7th, volunteers from 9Lives Association, a rescue organization based in 𝐬𝐫𝐸, Croatia, got a tip about a cat in need. They expected to find an adult stray they could take in, clean up, and rehome. Simple enough. They'd done it 100 times before. What they found instead stopped them cold. There, sitting in a cardboard box that was about as warm as a freezer, was a kitten. Not a cat, a kitten. And when they approached, this battered, broken little creature looked up at them, meowed. It was as if the little one whispered, "Help me." The volunteers' hearts couldn't survive that moment intact. Little Carrot was in terrible shape. Her tail had been torn off. She had a rectal prolapse. Her back legs were covered in injuries. And perhaps most heartbreakingly, the skin around her rear end was almost entirely gone. She had been suffering badly for who knows how long. And yet, on the car ride to the vet that very night, she demanded cuddles from the humans who had just scooped her out of a frozen box. Because little Carrot, as everyone would soon learn, had absolutely no interest in behaving like a victim. The vet stayed late that night just for her. She was sedated, her prolapse was treated as well as possible, her wounds were cleaned. It was bad, it was really bad, but little Carrot ate. And she purred. And so, naturally, the rescue team decided they were not giving up. Her prognosis was uncertain from the start. Nobody knew if she would be able to go to the bathroom normally. A large portion of her skin was simply missing. The prolapse meant her rectum was constantly exposed, which required careful, constant cleaning to prevent it from drying out or becoming infected. Her team had to monitor her diet obsessively, not too hard, not too soft, a genuine Goldilocks situation where the stakes were life and death. But there were small victories along the way, and the team celebrated every single one of them. Her appetite was strong, always a good sign. Her leg wound was healing. The laser treatment sessions at the vet's office were helping the skin around her rear slowly, steadily regenerate. And little Carrot herself became something of a regular at the clinic, greeting the doctor like an old friend, sitting calmly in the waiting room, enduring her treatments with the patience and dignity that frankly put most humans to shame. She also acquired a stuffed sheep. The sheep quickly became her constant companion, curled up beside her at night, offering the kind of soft, woolly comfort that perhaps reminded her of the mother she'd been separated from far too early. The sheep also needed frequent washing, for reasons that should be obvious given everything we've just told you about little Carrot's medical situation. Her rescuers promised to make the laundry cycle as quick as possible, so her little friend could return to her as soon as possible. For a while, things seemed to be improving steadily, and then came the complication they had feared most. The skin that was slowly regrowing around little Carrot's rear end began to grow over the rectal prolapse. It was closing, sealing. If left unchecked, she would lose the ability to go to the bathroom at all. Surgery was no longer optional, it was urgent. The first operation was delicate and nerve-wracking. The surgeon carefully repositioned what remained of the skin around her anal opening, used sutures and surgical glue, and sent her home with a team of volunteers holding their breath. The first bowel movement after surgery was what everyone was waiting for. If it passed without the stitches rupturing, they'd be on the right track. It didn't go smoothly. Little Carrot couldn't go on her own. The wound began to separate. A second surgery was performed, this time with the surgeon taking bolder steps, suturing areas he'd been afraid to touch the first time around. Another round of paraffin, dietary adjustments, hydration, enemas. A mild case of megacolon had developed, and still nothing. Then came the darkest day. Little Carrot was in pain, unable to go to the bathroom for a full week. Her regular vet was unavailable. The volunteers drove from clinic to clinic, desperate. One vet received them near closing time, was not exactly gentle about it, but sat down and manually cleared her bowel then and there. It bought them a little time, just enough. They made the decision to go to Zagreb, a big city that could offer more than vet clinics in Osijek. A 3-hour drive with a knot in their stomachs the entire way, not knowing whether they'd be told there was nothing more to be done. They arrived at the clinic, waited, and finally the doctor came in. He listened. He asked questions. He looked at Little Carrot and he didn't say, "There's nothing I can do." He said, "Let me try." What he found during surgery explained everything. Little Carrot's anus had been partially severed from her original injury, the trauma she had suffered before she ever found her way into that cardboard box. It had never been visible, never been properly addressed, and it had been silently sabotaging every attempt to help her. He cleaned everything, performed an enema, removed the damaged tissue, and sutured everything together in a new way. They waited. Hours passed, and then a message from the clinic. The surgery was successful. The doctor was optimistic. They got home late that night. They offered Little Carrot a little food, and then, in what the volunteers described as a moment of completely irrational but deeply sincere celebration, she went to the bathroom. On her own, for the first time in 7 days. "We know it sounds ridiculous," they wrote, "but we were so happy about that little poop." But no one thought it was ridiculous. Everyone who followed Little Carrot's journey understood and were happy themselves to hear about this brave kitten's poop. In the weeks that followed, Little Carrot recovered, slowly, carefully, day by day. Her surgeon in Zagreb checked in weekly, satisfied with how the wound was healing. There may still be some degree of incontinence, but she is eating and she is playing. She is launching herself around the foster home with the kind of chaotic energy that suggests she has firmly decided her suffering is behind her. She goes to the bathroom on her own, and her rescuers believe that she's finally out of danger. She came in from the cold on January 7th, a nameless, broken kitten in a frozen box. She leaves this chapter of her story as Little Carrot, a big fighter. She touched the hearts of everyone who heard about her, about the creature who purred at strangers while in tremendous pain, who made friends with a stuffed sheep, who survived more surgeries than anyone should have to count. But without her rescuers, she wouldn't have stood a chance, no matter how hard she fought. They saved Little Carrot's life, giving everyone a lesson about compassion and dedication. And Little Carrot reminded an entire community of animal lovers that sometimes the smallest, most battered lives are the ones most determined to keep going.